This is Redline History Episode 1, the OG definition of power. They love power and performance. They make the best tuned Ferraris and Porsches, and they make some of the coolest tuned cars of all time. This is KOENIG-SPECIALS. Willy Koenig was born on February 2nd, 1938. He got interested in cars, and like most people interested in racing, he wanted to race. So he started out with the Cooper, which he raced in junior Formula Racing in 1961. And he worked his way up the ranks, and he eventually won the German Hill Climb Championship in the Ferrari 250 GT Berlinetta in 1962. This win hooked the attention of Enzo Ferrari himself. And so Ferrari personally invited Koenig to an event in Maranello, which was actually held in Koenig's honor. Koenig didn't stop there. He kept racing with different cars, including the legendary GT40 and Lola 270. After racing some more, he thought to himself, hey, how about if I make a race car for the road? So in 1974, he bought a fresh Ferrari 365 GT4 BB. It was in fact the first 365 GT4 BB to be supplied to Germany. After a drive, he didn't like the amount of differences between the racing version and the road version, and so he did what will go down in history of tuners as one of the most legendary things ever. He tuned it. According to legend, he figured out how it worked in only a few days. He then called up coach builders and had engine tuners work on the power. He put on bigger brakes, new wheels, and massive tires. The car also had a new exhaust system made to bring out the monster sound of the flat 12 engine. He also then added a new wing and front splitter, along with new wheel arches and side skirts. When his build was complete, rich guys saw it at car meets and races, and they were thinking, can you convert our 365s too? And Koenig was like, sure. And so the legend was born. In 1977, KOENIG-SPECIALS opened their headquarters in a massive 4-story building in Munich as one of the best tuning companies in the entire world. During his tuning business, he also published magazines and raced with his son Walter Koenig. Father and son raced with legendary cars like the BMW 320 and the Porsche 953 K3. Oh, and also, Willy Koenig didn't stop winning. At the Nürburgring in 1989, he won the 500-kilometer race in a BMW M1 Pro car. Some of his partners in the KOENIG-SPECIALS business were legends like designer Vittorio Strosek and engine specialist Franz Albert. Strosek designed many of the body kits, and Albert squeezed mega amounts of horsepower from the cars they tuned. Strosek went on to make his own tuning business after Koenig, but that's for another video. After he tuned the 365 GT4 BB, Koenig moved on to the 512 BB and the 308 in 1976 and 77. He gave them those signature Koenig BBS rims with extra wide tires and new aerodynamics. Several panels on the cars were replaced with lighter, more stylish ones. They also added a high-performance exhaust, which rose the power to 370 brake horsepower. With performance camshafts, racing pistons, a modified cylinder head, and jetted carburetors, the power could reach 450 brake horsepower. Let me remind you, this was 1977. And just cause he could, he slapped on 2 turbos to push the maximum power to 620 brake horsepower. The Koenig 512 BB could get to 60 in just 3.9 seconds and could hit a top speed of 206 miles an hour. These same engine upgrades were also available for the 365 GT4 BB, the 308 GTB, the 308 GTS, the 328 GTB, and the 328 GTS. They also made the Koenig 512 BB Cabrio and the Koenig 512 BBI. But this wouldn't be a video on KOENIG-SPECIALS if we didn't talk about, in my opinion, their greatest Ferrari-based creation. I'm sure you've heard the Testarossa, right? Yeah, he tuned it too. He first revealed the Koenig Twin Turbo, which was a modified version of the Testarossa. After a few more modifications, they revealed the Koenig Competition at the Frankfurt Motor Show of 1988. This one had 850 brake horsepower. The following year, they revealed the Competition Cabrio, which was the open-top version of the Competition. And the year after that, they revealed the Competition Evolution, which had 940 Newton meters of torque and an explosive 1,000 horsepower. If you wanted a soft top, you could also get the competition convertible. To ensure ultimate aerodynamics, they also built a wind tunnel in their workshop. To increase airflow, they removed the side strakes of the Testarossa, which kind of made Ferrari angry. And so he told Koenig to take off all the Ferrari badges off their Ferrari conversions after the cars were completed, because Mr. Ferrari felt that they weren't Ferraris anymore. Even the Ferrari fans were divided. Some loved Koenig's creations while others hated them. The Koenig twin turbo had 710 horsepower from a twin turbo 12-cylinder engine. It got to 100 kilometers an hour in a mere 3.9 seconds and could reach a maximum velocity of about 330 kilometers per hour. There was also a Koenig twin turbo Evolution, which had about 800 plus horsepower. Not much is known about this conversion, or even if it was made and sold. The next version, called the Koenig Competition, had 850 brake horsepower, which gave it a 100 km an hour sprint of just 3.5 seconds and a maximum velocity of 335 kilometers per hour. The Competition Cabrio was able to hit 198 miles an hour with it top off, because the chassis needed strengthening to make it safe. Cost of the conversion was about $50,000, which equates to about $100,000 in today's money. The Competition convertible had an electrically retractable soft top, so you could enjoy it in the rain and in the sun. The one in the picture is the Competition Evolution convertible, which had 1,000 horsepower, just like the Competition Evolution. The most extreme version of the Competition was called the Competition Evolution, and it had 1,000 horsepower. Yes, 1,000. It could hit 60 miles an hour in a teeth-shattering 3.5 seconds and would go on to a top speed of over 230 miles an hour. All of the competitions came with customizable, reupholstered leather interior. If you wanted something more race-inspired, you could opt for bucket seats instead. They also came with cool accessories like a carbon fiber briefcase. And if you loved music like everyone in the 90s did, you could have a 1,000 watt, 16 speaker Kenwood system installed too. There was even an option to have the KOENIG-SPECIALS logo embroidered into custom floor mats. The entire conversion could cost over $500,000. And in today's money, that's over $1 million. The competitions also came with special air filters, a track widening system, and special sports suspension. They even came with Koenig branded brakes as well. For the Ferrari 512M and the 512TR from 1991 to 1996, KOENIG-SPECIALS made similar tuning packages like they made for the Testarossa. These ones were also badged with the competition name, but they had less power. The Koenig competitions based on the 512M and the 512TR are even rarer than the ones based on the original Testarossa because a lot less of them were made. If you can't tell the difference, the 80s one, which is the Testarossa, has straight taillights, and the 90s one, which is the 512, has 4 circular taillights. In case you are still confused, here's a chart of the 512 and Testarossa base conversions. In the 90s, they made the Koenig F48. The F48 is a heavily modified and tuned version of the Ferrari 348. They increased the track width and put on new springs. They tuned the engine to 542 horsepower, which was obviously twin-turboed. And if 542 horses weren't enough, you could opt for the K600 package, which made 600 horsepower. One source I saw claimed that one F48 was dyno tested at over 700. Because Mr. Koenig ensured the best in the business, he used F1-derived turbos from Japan. He also fabricated a new exhaust system and added catalytic converters to keep pollution levels lower. He then revised the aerodynamics and added a new front splitter and rear wing. They named it the F48 because the rear wing was styled like the Ferrari F40. A new wide-body kit was created and massive OZ wheels were bolted on. All of these modifications gave the vehicle a maximum velocity of 325 km per hour and a 0 to 100 km per hour sprint in just 4.4 seconds. If you had a 348 TB, TS, or Spider, you could get these upgrades for your car. But if you want one now, you might have a tough time finding one, as only an estimated 10 were produced, and from those, only 3 were right-hand drive. Then, they made the Koenig F355. Based on the Ferrari F355, the car produced 560 horsepower from a 3.5-liter twin-turbo V8 engine. A more aerodynamic body kit was fabricated, which included a new wing. They also had super wide signature 3-piece rims and tires. Their next Ferrari creation was the Koenig F50. Yes, a tuned Ferrari F50. They upgraded the engine internals and hooked up 2 turbos to the V12 to make 850 horsepower. Then, they modified the aerodynamics to get more airflow. They also redid the interior with a race-inspired atmosphere, super cool gauges, and a racing steering wheel. The sprint from 0 to 60 miles an hour took less than 3 seconds, and would keep going until 220 miles an hour. Oh, and of course, you can't forget those signature 3-piece Koenig rims. Koenig didn't just tune Ferraris. No, he got his hands on Porsches too. In 1988, he revealed his first Porsche creation, and it was dubbed the Koenig 911 Turbo. A new body kit was created for extreme aerodynamics. It had 480 horsepower. The car included 928-style headlights and rear lights from an Audi 200 Turbo. And this one was just the base version. The more extreme version of the Koenig 911 Turbo was named the Roadrunner. Its full name was the Koenig 911 Turbo Roadrunner. They bored out the flat 4 engine to 3.4 liters and slapped on a much bigger turbo. They also increased the airflow of the car by redesigning the side skirts so it could slip through the air, ripping up the tarmac behind it, just like a real Roadrunner. The Koenig 911 Turbo Roadrunner had up to 550 horsepower and could hit 60 miles an hour in a mere 4.4 seconds. It can also go on to hit a top speed of 308 kilometers per hour. Oh, and also, there is a convertible version as well. It was called the Koenig 911 Turbo Roadrunner Cabrio, and it was just as cool. They even tuned the Porsche 964 911. The creation was called the Koenig 911 Carrera 2/4. The car's engine was fitted with a supercharger and made well above 300 horsepower. The car was fitted with BBS rims and massive tires as well. A new body kit was made to improve the looks and just make it super cool. As if things couldn't get more crazy, Koenig got his hands on a 956. You know, that one? Literally the coolest Porsche race car ever. It was also the highest production race car ever. Although it doesn't sound like a good thing, many of these were taken by private teams and modified like crazy, so technically it is a good thing. Anyway, Koenig was able to get his hands on a 956, and so he did what a tuner would normally do. He tuned it. And he did something that others would do almost decades later. He converted it for road use. It's a race car for the road, and the first street legal Group C car. And while he was at it, he tuned the horsepower to 800 and created an all-new carbon fiber body for it, giving it the weight of just 1,050 kilograms. It did 0 to 60 miles an hour in a mere 3.5 seconds and had an insane top speed of 235 miles an hour. This was 1991. It also came with a leather interior, carbon fiber bucket seats, and a wicked-looking dash. It was absolutely legendary because the interior was designed by Tech Art. The unison of these 2 legendary brands created the beast called the Koenig C62. Apparently only 3 of them were ever made. Oh, and he raced it too. Anyway, we wouldn't have legendary cars like the Dower 962 LM or the CLK GTR today without Mr. Koenig's work. What do you think about Koenig Specials? If you had the money, which one would you buy? Also, if you liked the video, theoretically, you could like it. And you could also subscribe for more awesome videos like this. And if you thought Koenig Specials couldn't get any better, you thought wrong. See you next time for part 2.